Weren't surprised because we saw people who we knew instinctively were not patriots or MAGA, dressed up as MAGA, making what we felt were plans to cause chaos. At least our own belief and what we saw being here on the ground, we know that this was a pre-planned thing that happened. She heard them planning like coordinates and meeting places and that sort of thing, yes. And saying specifically out loud, calling us for patriots, those were MAGA people, but yet they were wearing MAGA clothes. So it was pretty obvious.
For the past 5 years, the media and Congress have focused on one person. His name is Donald J. Trump. They're focused on removing him from office, impeaching him, smearing him. They weren't focused on you, the people, we the people. There seemed to be a different set of rules for us, one for the elites and one for the regular Americans. We saw riots in Seattle and Portland and Minnesota, Washington, D.C. Those were all okay. Those were condoned by many on the left. And we didn't condone it. Violence is never right. Many of us said last summer, that's not right. We've all probably experienced social media censoring, especially if you've said something supporting the President of the United States, and it causes a lot of frustration. We understand that. In no way am I condoning what happened on Wednesday. So I want to explain a little bit about what happened in D.C. on Wednesday. It's a symptom of something different. Martin Luther King said this: riot is the language of the unheard. The talk of impeachment, the use of the 25th Amendment to remove the president now, it needs to stop. We need to tone things down. Tim, you have a quote also.
Yeah, I found this quote from George Washington today talking about censorship and the First Amendment. It says, if the freedom of speech is taken away, then dumb and silent we may be led like sheep to the slaughter. And I think that's certainly relevant for today, Greg.
Yeah, Mike, you've been talking to people there in Washington, D.C., and I want to pitch it to you with some of the things that you've been hearing there.
Yeah, Greg, I was out here in the National Mall earlier this morning, and I spoke to folks about what's happened out here over the last couple of days, and this is what they had to say.
Well, just really sad and frustrating. I mean, it's been a divided country for quite a while, and just a lot of tensions between COVID and what's happened this summer and the election. So, you know, just unfortunate circumstance right now.
What went through your mind when you heard about what happened at the Capitol?
I was sad, but not surprising. Just knowing some of the frustration, I was surprised that, you know, people were able to get in so easily.
And my reaction was just like disappointment, first of all, because everyone was not wearing a mask, everyone's super close together, and we have so many more things to worry about right now than the issue that was caused that could have been resolved in a more peaceful manner. So definitely disappointment was my reaction.
I think this has been a long time coming, and the American people are done. They're done with this. I think the truth needs to come out.
Now, I also spoke to a gal from Oklahoma, and she said that she and her girlfriend heard and saw some interesting stuff during the rally on the Mall.
We weren't surprised because we saw people who we knew instinctively were not patriots or MAGA, dressed up as MAGA, making what we felt were plans to cause chaos. At least our own belief and what we saw being here on the ground, we know that this was a pre-planned thing that happened. She heard them planning like coordinates and meeting places and that sort of thing, yes. And saying specifically out loud, calling us for patriots, those were MAGA people, but yet they were wearing MAGA clothes. So it was pretty obvious.
Greg, and so obviously the people that were out here that came to town, I spoke to a lot of them over the last 2 days, people from Georgia, people from Alabama, they all said the same thing. They said it was a great gathering. It was peaceful. They loved what the president had to say. And they also said that they felt that there was an exterior element involved, and that's what they believe ended up causing the problems at the Capitol. So that's kind of how it played out. Things are a lot quieter here today, as you can imagine. Greg, back to you.
They are a lot quieter. We did hear that the Capitol Police Chief and several of the top officials there have resigned from their positions. Now, you've seen some changes in security there in the last day, haven't you?
Oh, without question. And of course, the perimeter around the Capitol, where we were reporting from yesterday, has been beefed up, and it's going to stay that way. We're told through the inauguration. National Guard also on hand. They're going to stay there, we're told, through the end of the month. Now, earlier today, I spoke to a worker here on the National Mall, and he described what he saw on Wednesday in very distinct terms. He referred to two different teams. Let's say, for example, a football team. They're both wearing the same uniforms, but you can tell they're not the same team. And that's how he described what he saw and the demeanor he got from people out here. And what I'm talking about is the people that went at the Capitol versus the people that did not. And that's kind of, he's like, you know, I talked to so many people out here. They were so fantastic. You know, they gave me hugs. They were like my family. And then they're the other side, wearing the same uniforms, but you knew they were not the same. Greg?
So that's interesting, and we're hearing the same story. We're going to have Liz Joy on in a moment. She was there. Tim, you were there. We were watching it all break at the same time. Very interesting that these reports are coming out. We're going to continue to tell you the story on both sides of this as we go forward. Mike, thank you so much for your reporting, what you've been doing there.
As Big Tech is doing their best to censor anything coming from the current administration. One of our team members was watching this press release last night on Instagram with the audio off, and the captions generated by Instagram were just, let's just say, slightly off. In reference to the violence at the Capitol, she says, we condemn it. You heard her just say it. We condemn it. The president condemns it. But the caption says, we condemn the president. And Greg, you know, this goes to, you and I have talked about this many times, people just feel like they're not being heard.
That's exactly right. And I truly believe this, that free speech is the civil rights issue of this generation.
Yeah.
Because as long as this continues to happen, it goes to the Martin Luther King quote that I said a while ago.
Yeah.
Parler is the fastest growing social media alternative to Facebook and Twitter. Parler CEO John Matsey, a graduate of the University of Denver, is a true believer in free speech. The rate at which free speech advocates are flocking to his social media platform is evidence that Parler should be taken seriously. In response to Facebook banning President Trump, Matsey released a statement saying, if free speech truly is the enemy and we must restrict and censor the voices of the people to keep our country safe, then our country's already lost. If one man's voice is the threat to our nation, but his holding of the presidential office is not, then as apparently the powers of the presidency are less powerful than a single voice. Why should any of us settle to giving up our rights to free speech? We know, as believers and as Word of Faith people, we know the power of someone's words, and we cannot allow anyone to silence that. Tim?
Absolutely. You know, and the unrest and intrusion at the Capitol a couple days ago resulted in more than 50 arrests on Wednesday. Now the FBI is seeking help from the public in identifying anyone that actively instigated violence. On its website, the FBI is seeking tips and digital media depicting riots or violence at the Capitol building. They are also accepting information from callers at 1-800-225-5324. Now, according to the UPI, police made 52 arrests connected to the violence. One of those that made it into the Capitol but was not arrested is a member of Black Lives Matter. According to the Epic Times, John Earl Sullivan, you've probably heard his name, has used social media to advocate an armed revolution. That's his picture right there. You know, Greg, it's so compelling. As the days go by, we hear these reports, and we'll have Liz Joy on in a moment, of people that were there. And what you're seeing in the mainstream media is not what a lot of us that were there saw.
Yeah, well, it goes back to Mike Garofalo when he talked about two different teams.
Yeah.
A worker there at the mall area said there were two different teams wearing the same uniform, but two different teams, kind of like being a Cowboy fan all the time.
Well, yeah.
Two separate teams, two separate groups of Cowboys. Right. All right.